bring people together. He has brought people together, and he loves helping people. Everywhere I go, my entire life when I was a kid, he wanted to help people. And so I always knew my dad to be honest and truthful. He was always spunky. It's funny when they say he was quiet as a kid. He actually told me that he said throughout the years, he was like, I was watching something on the Royals, and I was watching one of the kings that actually he stuttered and he learned how to grow out of it. My dad was telling me that he used to stutter when he was little, and he learned to grow out of it. And I was like, really? He overcame challenges, every challenge that came into his life. Whenever he was wrong, he has always admitted his wrongs, and I love that. One of the factors about my father is that he never professed to be perfect, and when he was like, he grew. As he grew, I love watching him grow. And with that, he was always true, honest, clean, very organized person. His sister said that he became a perfectionist. She said she loved when she used to iron his clothes, and she said all of a sudden, I guess she couldn't get the creases as good as he could. I think my brother got that from him because my brother's the same way walking out the door. I see you, Devontae. The creases, it have to be exactly perfect. So she said he took over and he started doing his own ironing because he needed it to be a certain way. If I take anything from his house, he knows it's gone. I can't take a book off his shelf. He'll be like, it's the 5th book over on the 2nd shelf. I'm like, who knows that? He's very organized. And so with that, I watched him my entire life bring up and see potential in people that others could not see. He could take an average basketball player and make them great. He could see that they were going to go to the NFL. He could see they were going to go to the NBA. He would take someone and just tweak them and work with their child. And next thing you know, their child has scholarships. He always put hope of scholarships in everybody's life that was around them. If you heard the song playing Big John, it was by my uncle Bernard Tarver. And Bernard, when I was a kid, it was amazing because my uncles were everything. My father is, like you said, there's 10 children, and he was the first boy. He's number 4, and he had sisters before that, right? And so everyone after that, what happened after they came out of the fields and they were working, they actually lived, it almost was like, to me, when I saw it, they took me there, like a plantation type environment. Like it was, they had to get up in the morning, and they had to literally wrap cotton, my Aunt Tricia was telling me. And so my grandmother could come out in the morning and begin to pick it herself. And they would live in this condition. And that all 10 kids had to work. And so I remember my aunt telling me the stories. I could still see her face changing because of the environment they grew up in, but the parents wanted to give them the best that they could. So they lived in Arvin, which was actually near Arvin, but it was Bakersfield on the line. And so my dad starts doing sports, and the sports changed a whole generation. He began to excel, and what happened is it began to impact the rest of the family. He ends up going off to college at Boulder. His cousin Larry went with him, and next thing you know, their whole life changed. My grandfather, their family, every one of the family members after that just began to excel, and it was really awesome because you can see how generations can turn around and you can change a generation by one person. And that's exactly what happened. And what I love to see is that his sister went on to get her master's degree. She led all of Kern County, which was one of the highest paid officials there in social services. Wow. His brother that sang the song Big John, you are the start of something new, brother. Big John. He's saying, you paved the way. He said, you made a way for us to play, is the song. And so he loves that song. And I loved that song as a kid. That was like my favorite song because he was singing about my dad. I'm like 3 years old, listening to the CD about my dad. And then their brother was 12 years younger than them. He goes on to play at the Huskies. And I would love, my other uncle went to play at UCLA. And then my father raises children, and all of us went on athletic scholarships, and we all got degrees, and he paid it forward. He didn't have to pay for us because they paid when we were little kids. He was taking us to practice. He was taking us to sports. He was signing us up. He worked with us. He was a diligent parent. Now, his father never came to one game of his. And so because of that, he went to everything that we had. He was an active father figure in our lives. If it was parent-teacher conference, my father was there. If we were there, it was amazing. So these are the things that we grew up, but he didn't just impact our lives. Even just he moved to California in the last couple years, and he says, I gave my baseball stuff away. Baseball is his favorite sport to teach. I don't care what he said. He loves basketball and he loves football. Those are his favorite sports, but he loves to teach baseball. He makes stars. Next thing you know, I'm like, I thought you retired. You gave your bags away. Oh, well, they talked me out of retirement. He has a new team, and he's back out coaching again, committed, dedicated like no other. I took a picture of him. If you saw the video, he's out there on the tractor, and he's going on the tractor, and he's laying the track out for these kids because he's paving a way for more children. And this is what I love, is that he can take a kid who's a gangbanger, and he can turn this kid into an amazing kid. They didn't challenge him because he knew how to handle them. He knew exactly what to do. So I love that. He's reliable, he's dependable, he was always a protector, always a provider, inspirational, and he was always very independent. I mean, it's hard to kind of surprise him. I couldn't really surprise him for this because he would have been out cutting a tree somewhere and have a chainsaw, and he's putting it up on a wall because every year when people go buy their wood, he is cutting down a tree and putting his own wood, and he enjoys it. When we grew up, he was skiing and bow and arrow hunting. He's walking. He's very much a mountain man. Trust me, he's a mountain man, okay? So he loves teaching kids everywhere he goes. He's truly inspirational. His favorite foods, you guys, he likes everything. Dad is not going to turn down food. He's a food connoisseur, okay? But if you really asked him, he really likes barbecue, but he likes everything. His favorite color is blue. His favorite athlete is Muhammad Ali. As we were growing up, I remember him telling a story how he was in, I guess he was playing football, and he was in the hotel where, I guess right before maybe Rumble of the Jungle, if you know anything about the fight in Zaire between Ali and Foreman, like all of the people were coming to do a broadcast on them, and so my dad just walked right in there with them, and nobody said anything, and he stood right in while they were interviewing him and everything, because he was an athlete in the NFL during that time. And Foreman and Frazier, thank you, Foreman and Muhammad Ali, right, Dad? Is that Frazier. Joe Frazier. Okay, I had to get my guys right. Foreman and Frazier. But he just got to walk right in, so he had a lot of favor. You know, it's pretty amazing listening to these stories. As a kid, he took us to any athletic games. He believes in giving inspiration to children. So I got to sing to Dr. J when I was about 3 years old. Don't ask me how that happened, but I sure did. And so he always puts hope in people, and I really love that. He sees the best. Even with difficult situations, he rises to the occasion to help people out of difficulties, and I love that. He's very fair. It's not like, oh, you're my kid, I'm going to side with you. It's like, you're my family, I'm going to side with you. No, he's going to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do, and I love that about him. So his favorite sport are basketball and football. He has 5 boys and me. No, you were my 2, but he has 5 boys. And so I wish I could say I was the first or last, but I'm actually number 2. And then they waited 11 years and had 4 more kids. Imagine that. And so, his hobby is photography. He's also, one of the things that I like to say that Ivanka calls us the suck it up family, because she says that we have this ability of endurance. Like, we just don't stop. We keep going and we find a way. And so I think my ministry girls say that they could probably see that too, but I see that ability to push other people from other levels we kind of got from him, okay? So some of his favorite sayings are, "Pitcher go to work, we go to work." So when the pitcher goes to work, everybody else has to go to work. Some other ones are, "Do it right the first time." The other one was, "A hard head makes a soft behind." I got a lot of spankings growing up, but I'm appreciative for those to this day. It's not in the fall, but it's in the get up. His sister said he was a perfectionist and has actually worked towards his good, and I love that. He's also, his favorite car, well, when we were kids, we had a car called Accord. It was beautiful. It was an old-fashioned car. And so he's given us great experiences. He has 13 grandchildren and one on the way. My sister-in-law, Brittany, waved with her beautiful self. She's having a baby in February, so we're adding a girl to the bunch because she just had 3 boys in the last 5 years. So my brother's following in my father's footsteps, having 5 children with her and their beautiful self. They've been together since she was like 12 years old, my brother and her. And I think my friend Brandy is the same way, like her and her husband. They've been together since they were like 14, 15 years old. I think that's amazing. So one of the things I'd like to add out is the family has had a lot of history. So what the door he opened up And we see throughout the family. We have a cousin that is playing currently for the Kansas City Chiefs, DeAnthony Thomas. We have a niece that is a veterinarian right now. She's studying to be a veterinarian. One of his sons was in the Navy. I was a former Miss Oregon, also an author, and have done some pretty awesome things. One of his other nephews, Justin Cheadle, played for the Steelers. His son, my brother Seth, played for the Trailblazers and the Timberwolves. 3 of his sons played basketball overseas, and that's been pretty awesome. And then we have a granddaughter that's continuing the education, and she's in Cincinnati right now playing basketball, and she's already had 1 degree, and she's working on her graduate degree. So always consistent, always stable. These are the things that he has passed down through to us, and this is what we love about Mr. Tarver. Now, my brother was going to help me and see if he's going to come help me. You can just come stand with me. Come on. These are accomplishments, and we're going to just move to accomplishments. It's okay. So in Bakersfield in 1967, he led the conference in rushing and scoring. And in 1972, it was a college all-star led against the world champions of the Dallas Cowboys. And there was a story behind this one, which you may talk about, right, Dad? Where they had to pick certain people to actually be on this team. And if they pick you, you have to show up. And if those are the people most likely that were going to get drafted. And they were already drafted. So they got to play the Dallas Cowboys. And in 1972, he was the college all-star against the world champions Dallas Cowboys. So that's a pretty amazing accomplishment. And in 1967, Metropolitan Conference led in scoring record at University of Colorado, 671 yards without a loss. This record still stands to this day. So that's pretty impressive. The University of Colorado Buffaloes in 1971 through 72, season ranked number 3 in the nation, beating Ohio State, Buckeyes, and the Horseshoe and LSU in Tiger Stadium. So losses were in Oklahoma and Nebraska, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd in the nation, were all in the Big 8 Conference, now known as the Big 12. Number 1, 2, and 3 ranking have never been from the same conference since. So for the 2 years at the University of Colorado, he was number 34. He had 259 attempts, 1,300 yards. He averaged 5.2 yards per carry and 14 touchdowns. He is selected in 1972 as College All-Star, and March 29th, 2003, he was inducted into the Bakersfield Hall of Fame, which I was really blessed to go and see, and one of his first teachers were there when he was a little boy. It's pretty awesome. Yeah, it's pretty great. Hall of Fame. And his brother actually was there, Bernard, and it was really great because I remember taking the picture and his induction, a big old picture above them, and a few years later his brother passed away, and so it was a great moment to see the two of them together. If you ever saw him with his siblings, they have a camaraderie and a love that's really amazing. They all support each other. Every time they get together, they're taking pictures, and so it's really amazing to see those guys together. So it says here too that selected 1972 College All-Star. Oh, I got that part. The first player in the NFL. Oh, this is a very key point. I want you guys to know this because you've seen a lot of things with Kaepernick going on and all of the boycotts. Well, my father was the first NFL player that actually helped leading a boycott, standing for something he believed in, who was actually drafted. And a lot of people were not drafted because what they did is they just didn't accept you. And he was a first-round draft pick, and they knocked him down to the 7th round. So he still paid a price for going to the NFL when you're a first-round draft pick and you stood for something you believe, but he still went, which opened up a lot of doors, which is pretty amazing. And he got to play for the New England Patriots and the Philadelphia Eagles. And so when I was born, he was playing for the Eagles. We lived in Washington Township in New Jersey. And my brother, when he was born, we lived in Massachusetts before we moved to Portland. So it was a pretty amazing time growing up because everything was about sports. It wasn't if you go to college, it was where you're going to college. And we all just had a natural act for really amazing things in sports. And I just want to tell you, thank you, Dad, how much we love you. You've always been my hero. And you remember when you were kids, I just did everything with you. You were always amazing. So even when I thank God for all the times that you just, yes, thank you. Thank you, Jerome. Still is amazing. I mean, you see, he wants everybody. So you can't leave here without everybody dancing because he is a big dancer. When I was a kid, I used to be on his feet dancing with him, and I love that. So we'll guys get an opportunity to learn a little bit more about him, but we're glad to support him tonight and to celebrate him. And we want to tell you definitely happy birthday, Big John Tarver.